Hello, everyone. How is everybody tonight? It is February 20th, 2019. Man, this year, 2019, is just flying. Maybe it helps when you're as busy as I am. Thanks for everybody for tuning in tonight. Susan and Tracy and Full Metal Jackalope, Nana, Jessica, Jasmine, Blaze, Joyce. What's up, Joyce? Got to talk to Joyce a couple days ago. Laura, LaFord, and like I said, hello, Tammy. I was just talking to Tammy. And yeah, Cherie is on the delete troll button tonight. So she is going to be keeping an eye out. And she did a fine job last week once we were able to get everything kind of under control. But she has all of the controls tonight as far as that go. I bring the show, and she's like the stage manager, I guess, a position that I am fairly familiar with, having been one in Vegas for about 5 or 6 years way back in the day. So yeah, Cherie has not all the power, some of the power. But I thank you for all tuning in tonight. Probably some of you have already realized that I had posted that we were going to be doing a certain disappearance this Friday. Frankly, the disappearance of Brian David Cook. That's not going to happen. I'm hoping it will happen at some time in the near future. But I was supposed to do the interview today, and I'm not going to say who it was with, but this person chose to back out. And that happens. Doesn't happen often. I'm going to say the last time it happened so close. I mean, maybe a few weeks ago, I had one where I didn't know what disappearance we're going to have. We were able to put something together before Friday. I don't remember how long that was, but this was all pretty. That week was, I think, a little strange, a little rough. This week, everything was pretty much planned out and was going smoothly until today. So I think that we will still have an episode on Friday. However, I will be doing the interview tomorrow night. So between now and then, I'm going to have to start to put together the episode. This is a person I've talked to extensively. Actually, I was thinking it was going to be next Friday's case. We're just going to move it up. And that's the disappearance of Deborah Asbury, which I will be talking about at the end of the program, like I always do for these live shows on Wednesday nights. Yes, we have trolls, LaFord. Carrie, yeah, well, I just don't want to, I just thought I needed to explain it because I posted the picture of Brian, I'd already, technically, if you really want to know, I had already recorded some of my part of the episode. And just didn't happen. So I hope that this person changes her mind in the near future too, because it's a big case because I believe it's connected to other crimes that happened in the area where Brian disappeared. Okay, that's what I believe. No, we're gonna have an episode, Jessica. It's just gonna take a little more work toward the end of the week than usually happens for Unfound episodes. The way I like to do it is that I usually like to have the interview done as soon as possible. And then probably Tuesday, I start to write my part and record it. And then Wednesday, I edit the interview. And of course, I have several other things to do that I'm doing for Unfound. And then Thursday, I put it all together, kind of listen to it, make sure it sounds okay, and then it comes out on Friday. That's usually the way I do my work. That's not happening this week. It's all going to get condensed into one day, and tomorrow night after I do the interview, I will be editing the interview until however it takes, 2 a.m. or whatever long it takes. Just the way it goes. I mean, there are worse things in life. Hayden, I do not have any Thomas Brown news, so there you go. I think it's Satan. Hey, Oakley, what's going on? Good to see you. So late tomorrow. Jessica, it's no big deal. I get it done, and I'm very happy to help out the family of Deborah Westbury. This is a case, of course, that's like 25 years old. And I think my impression is that there's not a ton of information out there regarding her disappearance, but the information that is, I think we're really going to bring up some a new point of view in her disappearance, from what I can tell. What I can tell you, the audience, are eventually the people who decide that. That's just my impression, having talked to who the guest will be, who I will be interviewing tomorrow night. Hey, Ashley, I'm excited that you caught the show this week too. Thanks. Thank you. The Prince of Darkness. Okay, Rons. So there's that. So we're switching things up in the middle of the week. We don't do this very often. The crazy thing is that I have been talking to several people lately. I've been talking to a lot of people lately. I've been working on a couple cases that could be connected in California. I just got off the phone with another case that happened in California, but back in like 2003. I've been talking to quite a few people. Emily, in particular, has been talking to a lot of people, sending them my way. So I've been talking to a lot of people. So I don't want you to think we're running out of guests. We are surely not. It's just that when you get in your mind that this particular guest is going to be for this particular week, then, you start preparing for that. And then when that person backs out, you really, really, really got to catch up, especially because, I don't like to miss Fridays. In fact, the only 2 Fridays I've missed in the last 2 years are the 2 weeks around when my mother died. That's the way we do things here. So, thanks for everybody for tuning in tonight. Got a good crowd. The Angie Arnell poll from last Friday. I asked all of you, where do you think Angie is? A majority of you believe, and once again, the listeners surprised me, that you believe that Angie was buried by Michael, somewhere on that property. You do not believe, of course, his story that he went out in the canoe and her body went into the water, then he couldn't find it. You rejected that. You rejected that she was anywhere else in the lake. You chose the option in the discussion group that she is buried somewhere on that property. Surprising to me. I'm not inclined to believe she is on that property. I'm more inclined to believe that she's buried somewhere, but not on the property. But that's me. I think that a lot of different scenarios are possible. I don't think that really the interview itself and all the facts that we exposed last Friday could really point in any particular direction. So it was interesting to me that so many people picked that she was buried on the property, which, as we know, is a common result of many missing persons cases, that a lot of them are buried on the land where they disappeared. So maybe that answer makes sense. Let me see if I need to read anything here. Hello, Layla. Christina, it's a twin thing. That's interesting. Ann, what's going on? Talia, thank you. I appreciate that. Yep. Miss Ma every day. I talk to my mother every day. I've talked to her just about, I think, every day since she passed away on November 28th. Think of her every day. Thank you, Katina, for tuning in. Yeah, if it's buffering, let me know, but it's streaming here as fast as it can go. So that was the Angie Arnell poll. Now there's something else. Hey, Bree. I had stated at the end of the episode that if Michael Arnell lied during, to get his deal, that it could be rescinded. I emailed Tad Tobias, who is the nobody guy, a prosecutor, well-known lawyer. Of course, he was on Unfound way back at the beginning of 2017, and I asked him about that scenario. I'm going to be honest with you that he is very doubtful that would happen. That if it was discovered that Michael Arnell lied to get the deal that he did regarding the disappearance and death of Angie, that the prosecutor could then go back and change the deal or bring charges against him again. Tad is very doubtful of that. Okay, so I wanted to be clear, even if it means I was wrong at the end of that episode. I don't mind being wrong. Maybe I was letting my hopes getting in the way. Maybe I should have asked him maybe a few days before, because he emailed me. I got his email, I think, the day after the episode came out. So he's very doubtful. But on the other hand, Tad, I don't believe, got in. I don't know if he listened to the episode. I probably not. I don't know if he knows the real details of the case and everything. I think he was just making a general statement regarding that type of scenario. I'm not saying he's speaking directly to the case of Angie disappearing and her death and Michael being charged. That was his general opinion regarding a scenario. He was not commenting specifically on the Arnell disappearance and death. I thought you all needed to know that, and so that's why I'm telling you right now. Let me see what I got here. No buffering. Good. Katina, you're welcome. That was just a guess. Bree, my dad has been gone almost 6 years, and I think about him all the time. Yep, Bree, I know the feeling. Carrie, Michael Arnell would have been very brave to transport Angie too far away from that property. Good point. He says, yeah, it's double jeopardy. You can't charge people and do another trial. That's true. Unless, Bree, like the point I was making, if he lied to get the deal that he did. Okay, so I don't know if that's actually giving him, double jeopardy is involved in that or not. Like I said, Tad Tobias said that probably the deal couldn't be rescinded. So there you go. So Penny, until the Fed steps in. Kayla, hi, Ed's lots of snow here in South Dakota. Pamela, sorry to hear that. Lots of sunshine here in Florida. LaFord, brave and Arnell, and the same sentence. Okay. Is it possible that Angie did actually go hitchhiking and something happened? No, I don't believe that. Katrina, I'm pretty convinced from what I learned, what I heard in the interview, is that something happened. You know what Marianne said, something happened inside the trailer, not outside of it. Not outside of it. So there's the poll, and that's what Tad Tobias had to say. Now, Patreon Live. Unfortunately, some of you, I know I see Carrie in here. I know there may be a couple other people who get to watch Patreon Live on Sunday nights. It was a little bit of a debacle again. In fact, I think it was worse than the first week. My fault. I promised that myself and Cherie before Sunday are going to work on this. Okay. Hopefully Cherie and I maybe can get together sometime Saturday. And it was fun, Cherie. But we need to get together. And it's not as simple as starting this video. All right. All I do is hit one button. I'm ready. With that thing, it's a lot more steps that don't make sense to me. So Cherie and I are going to work on this at Cherie's convenience. And so we know when it gets to Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern that we can just start going in. Because what ended up happening is that we ended up having the show, and I thank you, Carrie. I thank you for saying it was well worth it. But what I ended up having to do afterwards was cut out the first part of it because it was me on the phone talking to Sherry about how this wasn't working. That's kind of funny. So I had to go in and edit the video and then repost it, which means you lose all of the comments. That sucks. So because I like people to see the comments. And that's all my fault. Nobody else's fault, not Patreon's fault, not YouTube's fault, nobody's fault, not the viewer's fault, my fault. Just not prepared enough. Okay, so I'm going to, once again, Cherie, you let me know when we can do that, maybe Friday night or Saturday or even Sunday sometime, and we can get it done. Thank you for saying it's worth it. Jessica said it wasn't bad. Mission got accomplished. Jessica, thank you for being very patient on Sunday night. Greenville, PA. Talia, I want you to know I've been in Greenville, PA, and I went to college with a guy from Greenville, PA. His name was Matt Ross from Greenville, I think. And I think I also went to school with another guy from Greenville. His name was Doug Brockway. I'm wondering if you know either of them. Man, I can just pull that stuff out. Okay, Matt lived in the next dorm over from me, next room over. And then Doug lived on my floor my junior and senior year of college. So there you go, Talia. If you know either of those guys, they'd be my age, 48 years old, something like that. Okay. So Patreon Live was a little bit of a fiasco, but we got it done. Audio issues. I posted this in the group, but I want to talk about it here. And I posted it in the most recent newsletter. By the way, did everybody get their newsletter? I hope everybody did. I'm going to have to change mail subscriptions because Gmail, the mailing list for Unfound is now so large that Gmail rejects it. You know, the problems of a program, I guess, getting popular. So I'm going to have to figure out something else to do with that instead of just doing a mass mailing on Gmail. I'm going to have to try MailChimp or something like that. So that's another something I have to get done before the middle of March. Ron, I do not believe there are a bunch of serial killers roaming the streets for all these missing people. No, I don't believe that. Yeah, they did bring a lot of great ideas. Sure, yes, they did. Okay, everybody, yes, you got the newsletter. How do I sign up for the newsletter, Bree? Email me personally, either on Messenger or you can just email unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, and I will make sure you get the most recent newsletter, which just came out a couple days ago. Thank you, Layla. That was very kind for you to say that. Okay, so there you go. But audio issues. Being that we do now have so many new listeners, the group has 4,500 people in it now, which means it's probably been about 2,500 new people since the last time I talked about any audio issues. If you ever listen to an episode and the interview, I'm way loud and my guest is really soft, I want to assure you that the episode was not mixed that way. Okay, I cannot say it to you any more clearly than that. It was not. All right, because I listened to the interview as I'm editing. While I'm listening to the interview, I'm editing ahead of it. So I listen to the interview every single word to make sure that the audio are equal. If you ever hear that, I don't know how to put this nicely, but the problem is something on your end. Okay, I'm not trying to be smart. Okay. The most likely reason that is happening is probably because you're using poor quality earbuds. That's what keeps happening. When this issue comes up and somebody contacts me, well, why are you really loud and your guest is really soft? Inevitably, 99% of the time, it's because the person is listening with earbuds, most likely ones that are not of a very high quality. You have to remember something. Earbuds are like this big. They do not have the dynamic range of regular headphones, and really earbuds are geared toward more of the bass side of conversations. So my voice is lower. You're going to hear it better. Earbuds, they have trouble with treble. So most of the people I interview are women. They're much more up in the treble range. They're going to be softer. That's the reason. Okay. Whereas if you use like the speaker that comes out of your laptop, the speaker out of your iPad, speaker out of your phone, computer speakers, regular headphones like the ones I use, you're not going to have these issues. But I can assure you, if that is the problem you're having, it is something that is that is not my fault. Now, I will tell you this. I need at some point, I have so many things to do. I want to go back. I need to go back and remix some of the very early episodes of Unfound when I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Okay, I can admit that. Specifically, the first ones through 2016 into early 2017. I think they can sound better. Now, I will tell you, once you get to into 2017, March, April, May, since then, that's about as good as the audio is ever going to be for Unfound. And I think that audio has maintained that quality up to this day. I understand if you have some issues with early episodes, and Lord knows I want to go back to them. Just haven't had a chance. Okay, so I can understand if you're listening to like Suzanne Lyle, although that one's pretty good. But Regina Marie Boss, for example, Donnie Smatlack, Christopher Hyde, those early ones, you may have some issues. I'll admit it. Okay, and that's my fault. After that, though, I think it's been pretty good. Pretty good. Let me see what we got here. Taylor, please sign up for our newsletter. We'd love to have you. Bree, thank you for emailing me. I'll get it done after the show's over. Carrie says, earbuds are not great. I don't have the issue, though, my Alexa, if I'm hooked to my car. Lou, I hook up to a Bose speaker. Lou, look at you. Love the Bose speaker comment. Love that. Just listen on Stitcher just through my phone speaker and never have any issues. Yes. People don't realize that your phone speaker, where's my phone? This is my phone. It's an LG V30. This speaker right here, that's the speaker right there, is of a better quality than you get out of earbuds. That's true. That's true. Got to keep that in mind. So that's what I have to say about audio issues. That's the main point. I can assure you that I mix the episodes at a very high quality, 192 bits per second, which is probably 3 times what the average podcaster does. Okay, I can do that because I have the space on my computers, and because I know that these are interviews, they're done over the phone, that aren't going to sound as good as I do because they are recorded over the phone. I realize that I need to bump up the quality to make sure that the audio is good. All right. If it was just a program with me talking, I would just probably mix it at the regular rate that other podcasts do. But because I do interviews and everything, I want to make sure it's mixed at a higher rate, a higher quality. So that's why the files for Unfound are bigger. Okay. There you go. Well, that answers that question. I use cheap CVS brand earbuds, so there's that. LaForte, it could be. It could be. And Jessica, I'm just gonna pretend I'm not reading that thing about how you listen at 1.25 speed. I'm just gonna pretend that I'm gonna forget that. Okay, I'm gonna pretend that you didn't write that. Okay. Okay, so we got the audio issues out of. There was Misty. I want to move to this because I told Misty, and I don't know if she's in here. Hopefully she'll, if not, she'll watch it afterwards. I had posted something on the Unfound podcast page about how there was a story about a drug user who friend or girlfriend or something overdosed, and he kept the body hidden for like a long time. And Misty, who has been a listener, I think, since the beginning, since Unfound started, asked me, should drug users be let off the hook to report overdoses? Would that work? I think it's a great question. I think it's an interesting question because we know of so many cases, even just the ones that Unfound has covered, and we've done about 117 now. We know how much drugs play a role in many of these disappearances. Relationships are still number one. But drugs are right up there. And I think that we, myself and all of you, have this impression that a lot of these are overdoses. maybe intentional overdoses, maybe hot shots, but maybe others were just people doing drugs. Somebody overdoses. The rest of the people get scared. And I'm not going to pick out a particular case as an example. But then the other people get all scared that they're going to go to jail. They're going to get in trouble and everything. And then they dispose of the body and everybody just walks away from it. Is there anything that what I think Misty is asking, is there anything legally in the, like changing the code, the legal code that could change this? Your phone defaults to 1.25. Okay, Jessica. Okay. Carrie says you think it's a good concept regarding the legality of this and changing the legal question. I think it's a great question. The problem I have, though, is that, and once again, we've covered a lot of these cases on Unfound where drugs are involved. I realize that maybe some of these are murder, okay, where somebody was given a dose of drugs that killed them on purpose. I am sure we've covered some cases where that was the case, okay? And we've talked about hot shots. I've talked about hot shots in the group privately. We now know what a hot shot is. But the other impression I have, though, is I don't think that these people would get in trouble anyway. I don't know. I realize maybe that we do over prosecute drug offenses in the United States, and I'm not here to get into the politics of that. I'm not going there, okay? But I think that if there were some junkies, addicts who were doing drugs somewhere and one of them shot up and it was a real accident, maybe it was laced with fentanyl. Now, of course, if somebody did that, that is a crime. That is murder. But if it's just regular heroin and it's just that one time where this time it goes bad when all the other times with the same amount of dose went fine, and these people were to call 911, the ambulance shows up, I don't really know how big a trouble these people would get into. They surely would not be going to jail for years or anything like that, unless maybe they sold it to the person. But if they all bought from the same person and everything, I don't know how much trouble these people would get in. And the other thing we have to realize are there are people overdosing where people do call police. That does happen. It does happen. It's not like every person who overdoses, let's say from heroin, that their friends scatter. Okay? Bree says a lot of people won't report overdoses because they give the person the drug and don't want to get in trouble. That is, of course, a consideration. Maybe for the first time or two, but beyond that is in and out for possibly potentially killing a friend. Taylor says Lacey's case. Lacey Buenfil is probably a good example of that. Thank you, Taylor. Hello, everyone. What's up, Marcus? Bree, I think if people were honest about it, the police wouldn't arrest them. You got to be honest and help the police through the investigation. That's true. Blaze, unfortunately, even if the snitch goes missing before they can be a witness in any trial. Carrie, my background, my experience has been, when they call, they give fake names, a split before help arrives. Well, I think, we also have to remember something else. I guess what Carrie is pointing out is these people have a tradition of avoiding cops. All right. And I don't think any changing the legal code is going to change that. Okay. They're always, once you get into that mindset that I'm doing something illegal and I'm always looking for the cops and everything, it's not like these people keep abreast of changes in the law. Okay. All they care about is getting their drugs, but they kind of know that heroin is illegal. Crystal meth is illegal. Their only concern is to shoot up and not get caught. Okay. And that's the other part of it. And so I don't know, even if you change the law that made them less culpable or not culpable at all, it's hard to break that habit of running away from the police. Okay? That is certainly, I think that's something else. So I don't think that it would be easily solved just by a bunch of lawmakers getting together and deciding, oh, wait, we need to rewrite the code. I think. The most trouble they would get in is doing drugs or having drugs on them. They may be up to rationalize that they were in a that while they are in a state of high. That's a good point. That's the other problem with this, is that we are expecting people whose minds at that moment aren't working correctly to make a rational decision. I think that's probably hoping for a little too much. In fact, I have no proof of this, but I think that does happen sometimes, that they see something and they're paranoid. A lot of these drugs make these people paranoid. They're not going to be thinking about what the legal code is at that very moment that their friend is overdosing. All they're going to think of, oh man, I'm freaked out. We got to do something about this. It's not like, I guess a good example might be Pulp Fiction. John Travolta, Uma Thurman, she overdoses. He takes her over to Eric Stoltz's house, and then he gives her that shot and brings her back to life. Now, the reason he did that is because it was what's his name? Ving Rhames' wife, Uma Thurman. And if she were to die or disappear, of course, we know Ving Rhames would have had John Travolta killed. In a different circumstance, John Travolta, without not being with the boss's wife, he probably just would have let her die. That's what those people do. And there's no law that would change that because, and I realize I'm using a movie, but I think that's a good illustration of these people. I think people will do something if they have a motivation to want to keep that person alive or something. Otherwise, they're just going to let the person die. That's one more reason to not do drugs. Christina says, I actually think a lot of quote-unquote accidental overdoses are murder. I can't argue with that, Christina, unless I'm there, but though it's hard to tell which from which. Katina says, I saw a billboard here in northern Arkansas that basically was saying call 911 if somebody overdoses and no recriminations. Okay. Bree says you take a chance every time you want to get high. Yes. Harry says, I have taken a call where a friend used overdose victim phone to call 911, left line open, didn't tell us a word, and left. It took a bit to connect the dots. The Ghost of Cherie. Okay. Carrie, that name is the Ghost of Cherie. I don't know what that means. Bree, isn't there a good Samaritan law? Like if you help a person, you don't get in trouble? I don't know about that, Bree. I don't know. I think what we Full Metal. I have a question, Ed. So many of your guests become advocates for their missing loved ones and do so much. There's out there who really stands out. Full Metal. I don't like to do that. I don't like to put people in front of other people. I don't like to say about my favorite cases and my favorite guests. There are just some guests that I've gotten to know better than others. All right. For example, I've gotten to know Lisa Kinsoon better than others. Why? Because she doesn't live too far from here, and we've had lunch several times. Love hanging out with her and her husband, Lutchman. Love it. Joyce Rivatuza, who I know is watching tonight. I've gotten to know Joyce. I met her in person. So the guests that I've gotten to know well because we've talked a lot since they've been on the program. Yeah, and of course the ones that I've met in person, Linda Smatlack, for example. I've met her in person. Cindy Fox, who was the guest for Lacey Buenfil. I do maybe feel a little closer to them than maybe some of the other guests, once again, because we've had lunch together, we've seen each other, So that's the closest I can to answer that question, Full Metal. But getting back to the drugs, we also have to remember that, what I think I've learned about drugs and doing Unfound for 2.5 years is drugs make you selfish. All right. We know these people. They will lie, cheat, and steal to get their drugs. Given that, you can't then expect them to then suddenly turn around and be concerned about somebody else. All right. These people may, my impression is that these people may do drugs together and everything else, but if one of them tries to take drugs from the other, there's going to be hell to pay. So we have to consider that. This is what happens when your mind gets on drugs. Not to go back to the 1980s. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. But it's kind of true. Andrew says there are good Samaritan laws in certain towns, city, states where even other users call the ambulance, police. They go unless they sold the drugs usually. You're welcome, Full Metal. Blaze, I was driving and saw a guy lying on the sidewalk, bloody on his face, called 911. The cop didn't even look to see if the guy was alive, just wanted all my information. Okay. Talia, in Meadvale, Pennsylvania, they recently gave away Narcan, and they promise you won't get in trouble calling 911 or taking somebody. Maybe this is the way it's going. Maybe we don't need any laws passed. Maybe it just needs to be a public service announcement. If somebody overdoses in your area while you're with them, just call 911. You'll be excused. So maybe the answer isn't a law. Maybe it's just a public service announcement. I don't know. I think this is a great discussion, though. I personally don't think that a law would change much, because I think that these people are into their way of thinking, into their drug habit, and I don't think a bunch of laws would change it. Something else might. I don't know if laws would. I'm not familiar with that, Katrina. Ashley, usually the Good Samaritan law applies to administering CPR to a person who is in cardiac arrest. Ribs often get cracked during that process, and the Good Samaritan helps protect the one trying to help. Okay. Hey, Ann, you made it. Good to hear from you. Good. Glad you can make it. Carrie says, I feel unsure about Joe Public having Narcan. Okay. Marcus, is there ever a situation where you're required to assist someone in need? Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that recently, because that was the theme of the final episode of Seinfeld. That's why they ended up going to jail, because they didn't help that one guy that was getting carjacked or whatever. In certain places, there are you're required to. Yes. I think those do exist in some municipalities or cities, but I don't believe there are any state or federal laws like that, to my knowledge. Blaze says, I carry an EpiPen. I have heard that adrenaline in it can act like Narcan. Okay. So we talked about that. I think there's some good comments there. I hope I will contact Misty to, if she's not here, I don't know I don't think she is, but I will make sure that she gets to watch this video and can read some of your comments as well, because she is the person that asked me about that. Let's go to this. I had mentioned I don't want to get too much into this because I can't really say much either. Anyway, but I did have a conversation last week with a TV company, TV production company. Can't tell you which one. Can't tell you what they're planning. I'm not going to do that. But I just want to thank Vincent. Again, I know that I did it last Friday, but I want to do it on this video. I want to thank Vincent at the Gone Cold podcast for recommending to this company that they should talk to me. Okay. I had a very good conversation. I don't know how long it went, maybe 40 minutes, with a representative from this company, asking about me, asking about the program, asking me about some of the cases and some of the things I've experienced. And as I've told you, when TV things have come up before, what do I always tell all of you? Very difficult to get things on TV. Does it frustrate me that something like the Smiley Face Killer Show gets on there? It does, because I think it's a load of crap. So I'm always ready to do a TV program that that represents true crime, missing persons cases in the right way, truthfully, realistically. Okay, I'm always going to be open to that. I'm not open to anything else. But this woman and I had a very good conversation. I don't know where it's going, totally out of my hands. I just appreciate that I was included. And I want to thank Vincent for that. I can't tell you the company. I can't tell you what else they've done because I do know what else they've done. I can't tell you what they're planning to do, the format or anything else because I've been told all these things. I can't do that. I just appreciate the opportunity. And when I can tell you more, I will. May not go anywhere. I don't know. Carrie, here goes Ed teasing us again. Well, I don't mean to tease you. Okay. I don't want to do that, but I know that you like to hear things that are going on. And I think that I tried to tell you as much as I'm allowed to say on anything, but there's always going to be things I can't say. All right. That's really all I can say. And being that I've talked about TV things in the past, I thought that I might bring this up again. So there you go. Okay. I know you're just Ashley. Carrie, you are allowed to hassle me. Okay, you are allowed. You're perfectly allowed. But I just want to remind you, I try to remember here that TV shows are difficult to put together. Okay, a lot of competition. Frankly, with Netflix and all of that stuff, although there are more shows and everything, a lot of shows get canceled. Shows don't have the viewership compared to let's go back to the 1980s. I mean, you go look and see how many millions of people used to watch a show like Cheers, how popular that show was. And then you look at the amount of people who watch a show like, what is it? The Big Bang Theory, which is probably one of the most popular shows on TV. There is no competition. Cheers had so many more viewers than the Big Bang Theory does. And that, so it's hard to get advertising, everything else. Very competitive, a lot more competitive than it used to be. But in my opinion, TV does need a really good true crime show that represents things honestly, especially when it comes to missing persons cases. Okay? I'm going to continue to say that. Blaze, an Unfound TV show would be great, but MSM bends the facts sometimes. Mainstream media bends. Well, I just have to do the best I could. What I always say is, for example, on the show Disappeared, I know that Disappeared, people like it. I've probably seen every episode, many of them multiple times. Okay. But we on Unfound have pointed out when we've covered a case that has been covered on Disappeared, the mistakes that were made. Most egregiously in the April Pitzer episode. That's the one that's going to continue to come to my mind. It's obvious to me that they do not have a missing persons expert on their staff. I would love to help them. It's obvious to me. Because when I learn about these disappearances afterward, once again, April Pitzer and some of these other ones that were on Disappeared and then Unfound cover them, I would have, being that you only had 43 minutes, I would have covered that disappearance a different way than they did. But they're TV producers, they're writers, and they have no experience in really following missing persons cases. They're just putting a TV show together. This week they could be doing Disappeared. Next week they could be doing something for the Home and Garden Network. Okay, they aren't experts at missing persons cases. I think I could help them. I think I could make that show better. Whether they would like my opinions, I don't know. But the show, I realize that it has a lot of viewers, but it gets a lot of things wrong. It just does. They sensationalize everything. Let's just put it this way: they sensationalize a lot. LaFord, you're going to host Unsolved Mysteries. Am I right? Probably. I would love to. Probably not. Cold Justice is still on. I've maybe seen a few episodes. As all of you know, I don't watch that much TV. Full Metal, I love Disappeared. Thank you for the compliment, Full Metal. Jessica says, Teams Disappeared and other shows are very one-sided and not comprehensive. Well, I just try to remember they only have an hour to cover the case. You know, the problem I have is that you may be right that they are a little one-sided. The other problem I have is that, you know, they interview, a family for 2 hours. They use 10 minutes. Okay. As if the TV producers themselves really know the best 10 minutes to use. Once again, they are not missing persons experts. Okay. I do interviews every week. I have no idea how I would be able to do a 2-hour interview and then pick out the best 10 minutes. I couldn't do that on any interview that I've ever done. So the way the show is produced, I think would need to be changed. I also don't like recreations because I think it puts false memories in people's heads. I think the time for recreations of things like this have come and gone, especially if the cases are unsolved, because then you start going back to people and they think, well, I saw this and I was, you'll be like, no, that was a recreation they did on TV. That hurts. It hurts. So probably, and I realize recreations are a big part of Disappeared. I think that they can do it another way. Okay. I just want to talk about something else, being that we're here. Let's talk about, in general, true crime podcasting. Because within the last, I'm going to say 6 months, some very prominent shows have gone off the air. Thin Air, which was a Disappeared type of podcast, Missing Persons podcast. Thinking Sideways, which did some missing persons cases. They did some maybe conspiracy stuff, serial killer stuff, things like that. I thought it was a very popular show. It went off the air. And now most recently, Insight, which was hosted by 2 women. My understanding is one was in the United States, one was in Australia. That one is going off in the air. And I think it shows, that what we do is tough. Okay. If I'm somebody just, I was talking to somebody earlier, they'd say how busy I am. It's true. It's true. But I also want to assure you that Unfound, and I'm wearing an Unfound, I haven't worn the gray Unfound shirt for a while. Unfound is not going anywhere. Okay. I want to assure you of that. It's not going anywhere. Okay. So because I realize in these cases that I just stated, it seemed they were doing fine, and all of a sudden they just came up and said, nope, we're not going to do it. And maybe there's some other podcasts that you know about that are popular that have gone off the air. I can assure you Unfound is not going anywhere. Okay. And I can tell you that I'm pretty secure in the belief that I'm going to be doing this for a long time. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up every week. Maybe some breaks here, and we'll just have to see. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to surpass the run that I did from like late 2016 until November 2018, where I didn't miss a Friday. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that again. But I want to assure you that Unfound isn't going anywhere. Okay, because I know how that when something like these happen. Well, Thin Air. What's happening? You can get a little afraid. I want to assure you there's no reason to be fearful about Unfound. I can't tell you about any other podcast out there. I don't know about them. I don't hardly know any of the other hosts or anything. Unfound is not going anywhere. Full Metal says, I loved Thin Air. Was sad they left. Lewis says, those TV shows rimming me when I was a kid of my dad, who in fact was a trial court judge, watching Perry Mason say they can't do that. They can't do that. They can't do that. Right, Lewis? Yes. Yes, of course. YouTube is, Talia says, YouTube is a great platform for controlling your own work, in my opinion. Yes. The Wire, best show off the air. Yeah. Okay. Ashley, I want a shirt like that. Random but true. I like thin air. Well, Ed, Nana says, Ed, you have to have a life too. I do I have a great life, Nana. I haven't been able to play any disc golf since I got back to Florida. But I've been concentrating more on getting back to the weight room and cardio and things like that. That's kind of taken the place of the disc golf for now. But, I was able to go shoot my new AR-15 this morning for a couple hours. I got trained on it, how to clean it, how to take it apart. I got that done this morning from like 10 till noon. This is a passion. I would think I was telling somebody that I need to start getting out of my apartment a little more. And so I've been going to Starbucks and doing work. So whenever you go into Starbucks and see that person who's hunched over their laptop working, I can be one of those people sometimes because I need to get out around people because I can become a hermit very easily. Ford says, yeah, and site was really good too. Would you consider looking into the Patricia Jane Seelbach case, went missing in Grove City, Pennsylvania, October 1973? Christine, I'm going to tell you this. I have looked into that case. True. That's a true story. I have. We may just have it on Unfound. I'm not saying it's going to happen soon, but you have to remember, I went to Grove City College, so I'm very familiar with Grove City, Pennsylvania. So there's always that possibility. I can tell you that I've made some inquiries. I talked to somebody in that town who helped me out making a couple contacts here and there because I haven't been in Grove City never. So, Christine, there is at least a chance. So I am very familiar with that case. I want you to know that. Christine, your form and what and how you do it is the best I've seen. Don't change a thing. We're not changing, Christine. Well, I get it. The world is too peoply. That's why I work from home. So it can be a little peoply. Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to state that. I don't want everybody to start thinking that true crime podcast world is falling apart. Everything is fine in Unfound world. I did have a question from the group that is kind of a follow-up on something that I talked about last year. And that is the disappearance of Patty Action. Remember, that is a case we covered. I had her sister on. And I've been meaning to call her. Being that I'm now back in Tampa, I'd love to get together with lunch. And once again, you asked me about guests and everything. That's another guest that I think, being that they're in the Tampa area, that I should probably get to know and maybe see her in person. But at the time of Patty Action's disappearance, I had stated that I believe that the disappearances of Leanne Huffman, Sharon Harrer, Harrer, and Barbara Barkley were related because they happened to happen in a certain period of time, all around the same age, and at least in a couple of the cases, the cars were taken. And in fact, I think it was in Barbara Barkley's case, when she disappeared, her car disappeared, and it was found across the street from where Patty Action disappeared. And you should know that Sharon Harrer disappeared. I'm pointing in this direction. Probably less than a mile in that direction is where she disappeared from, right up that direction. That's north of me. Here's the issues with that. I stated that last year. I think that would be an interesting thing to look into. The problems that I've had is that I haven't been able to find any family for Leanne Huffman or Sharon Harrer. I actually talked to Barbara Barkley's mother. It's been a while now. She didn't even know that the other girls had disappeared. She didn't know anything about Patty, Leanne, Sharon, even though they happened right around this area where Barbara Barkley's mother still lives. I haven't met her in person. So the problem really has been that I haven't been able to talk to Leanne, anybody in Leanne and Sharon's family, to try to get some background. Because if you look at Leanne's case, there aren't a lot of facts out there. You look at Sharon's case, not a lot of facts out there. There are a lot more facts out there for Patty's case and Barbara's case. Why that is, I don't know. I'd love to know. I don't know. But I did speak to Barbara Barkley's mother. As you would suspect, a lot of it was confidential. But there is nothing that she said that turned my attention away from the idea that these cases could be related. Okay, she didn't say anything along those lines that changed my mind at all. And maybe we, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we will cover Barbara Barkley's case for an episode. And then you can all go back to the Patty Action episode and decide for yourself. And maybe I need to enlist Emily maybe to try to look for some family and because I've not been able to do it. Too busy. But it's just I did it for a while, just could not make any headway trying to find their families. So there you go. Blaze says, I wanted to tell Ed, I've been networking in chat and pointing folks to come watch Unfound. Blaze, thank you. I appreciate that. Ford says, I'm obsessed with Unfound and the classic episodes get me through my workday. I hope to see some of those classic episodes. The audio is good on them. I was just mentioning that earlier. Those early episodes, a little rough. Bruce MacArthur case. Not familiar with it. Sean Murphy. And Ed, what about the rookie cop from Down Your Way? She was going to break up with a terrible boyfriend. That is Kelly Rothwell. That case is still unsolved. David Perry, I believe, is in jail. And I'm just going to tell you the latest information you ever want to have on that case. You go to Tampa Bay True Crime Report or Tampa Bay Crime Report with my friend Lee Clifton, who was the guest for that episode. Anytime you want the latest on that, you just go there. Okay, TampaBayCrimeReport.com, I believe is what it is. So that's where I would go, and that's Kelly Rothwell. She also disappeared in that very direction about 2 miles, right in that direction. And I go by where her car was found all the time. Blaze asked, did you check any marriage records under their names? Maybe family can be found under maiden names. I've done some extensive work trying to find Leanne and Sharon's families. Trying, because that's what we do at Unfound between myself, Emily, and Cherie, and some other people that help with the program. That's what we do. Pretty good at it. Just been really tough in their cases. Barbara Barkley's mother was found like that. Like that. No problem. I found her phone number, called her. The other ones hasn't been that way. Brandon Lee, Mystery Never Solved. We don't do those kind of things on Unfound, the Sean Murphy Journal. Katina, I've started listening to the podcast at work when I'm on third shift and I'm in the kitchen making breakfast biscuits and stuff at the convenience store. You're making me hungry, Katina. Talia, thank you for the compliment, and you're welcome. Touching on the Patty Action case. To me, that's a case, even though it's almost 40 years old, that's still a case to me that's solvable. And I think that, once again, more time. As you know, I haven't been able to get volume 5 out because I've been so busy talking to people. And of course, some things happened at the end of 2018 that took my attention away with my mother and staying in Pennsylvania and everything. So if I can't even get the books done, and it's hard to get some of these, what you might call work in the background done. It's just difficult. It's just difficult, but I enjoy it. Not burnt out at all. Love it. There's only so many hours in a day. Can their cases be found on the Charlie Project? Marcus, yes. All 4 of those cases, Patty's, Leanne's, Sharon's, and Barbara's, are all on the Charlie Project. Patty Action, Leanne Huffman, Sharon Harrer, Harrer, I don't know how to pronounce it, and Barbara Barkley. Yes, Marcus. Sure, you're saying a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. True. You're welcome, Ann. Sean Murphy Journal, are these cold cases we are talking about? We're talking about missing persons cases that I would say, yeah, pretty much every case that Unfound covers is cold. Because A lot of them we covered are very old. The average case that's covered on Unfound is about 20 years old. So yes. So let's get to one thing I want to cover. One thing in the news, and then we're going to move to this Friday's disappearance. This Go Missing game that I read about that has gone viral on Facebook. I guess there's teenagers. They want to get their names in the paper. They want to get their pictures posted on Instagram and everything else. And they've decided that the best way to do that is to go missing. It's these times, I'll be honest with you. It's these times that I'm glad that I'm not a parent. You know, how do we fix this? I don't know. It's horrible. It's horrible for police. It's horrible for the people who actually go missing. It's horrible for their families. It's horrible for search and rescue people. It's horrible. It's horrible. There is nobody that wins except the teenagers who get their faces plastered everywhere. And they are the last people who should be winning in this. Unfortunately, we live in an age, and I've talked about this kind of before, is that we live in an age where people are desperate for attention, not just teenagers. Okay? Don't ever think that wanting to be popular on Instagram and get likes and shares and clicks and follows and subscribers and listeners and everything is limited to teenagers. Okay? We as humans, we can be somewhat selfish sometimes. And sometimes it's hard for us to take our own wants and needs and emotions out of a particular topic when really it doesn't involve us. And all we're worried about is, are we getting our love or not? Okay. And I guess I am I'm no different than any other human when it comes to that. The issue here, though, is this is actually affecting law enforcement. You know, if kids want to eat, what were those things, Tide Pods or whatever, all these other things that I happen to read about. I don't have any kids, so the only way I would ever know about them is reading about them. Kids have been doing stupid stuff since the beginning of time. That's not going to change. The issue here, though, is this is actually affecting law enforcement and could actually affect people who are in real trouble. What can you do? My opinion is that these social media sites like Facebook, as much as Facebook has helped Unfound, Instagram, YouTube, the problem is I think that Facebook and these other social media sites like this viral stuff a little too much. All right. Carrie says it's a slap in the face to real victims. True. The unsinkable miss. Yes, Carrie, takes police investigators away from the real missing persons that need them. Jessica, agree, charge them. Penny says agree. Nana, a college girl here in Wisconsin did that. They find out she staged it. And the family had to pay it all back, $25,000. Good. And then I'm reminded of that young woman in California who allegedly went missing, and then she showed up on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or something like that. Remember that? There's just people out there who will do anything for attention. Anything. And once again, it's not limited to teenagers. And but I agree. If they're going to do this, then they should be charged with something. I don't know what you're going to, I don't know, jail time, no. But I'm also pointing my finger at the social media sites that instigate this stuff, that know that it's going on and do nothing. They suddenly see this go missing game, go missing for 48 hours, and the social media sites do nothing to try to delete those posts or anything like that. I also have a problem with that. Once again, if it's Tide Pods and things like that, I don't know what you can do. But when you're getting in the way of law enforcement, that is a step too far to me. A step too far. So I think that social media sites have some responsibility in this as well. And this is not, You know, I don't want to hear anything about their free speech rights and everything. It's not free speech. It's entertainment. Okay. Entertainment is part of free speech, but it's not ultimate free speech. So, you know, you certainly don't have the right to get in the way of law enforcement trying to do their job on cases that are actually real. Okay. Um, uh, Blaze says this is very serious stuff, much more than prank 911 calls. Last week, 2 YouTubers wake up to the police coming to do a wellness check. Dummies on YouTube called. These were adults over 40. Yeah. Leela says lots of public toilets need cleaning. Good public service job for the little snots. Good one. But, you know, once again, you can't change. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to do stupid things. They're going to get in trouble. That's the part of doing a teenager. I was there myself once. But this is going too far. But I don't think the way you curb it is making the places where they can instigate it, where they can kind of all get together and find out about this stuff. You make those places feel the brunt of this as well. Okay? They are the ones that need to learn the lesson as well. Chris says, I'm sitting in a fire department assigned to the ambulance for the next 12 hours. So I feel like I should say, don't eat Tide Pods. Okay. I don't know that about. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to this Friday's case. As I explained to you at the beginning, it was going to be the disappearance of Brian David Cook, which would have been a disappearance from Oceana, West Virginia. Not happening this week. Instead, the plan, I still haven't done the interview, but the plan is tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern, I will be doing the interview for that episode. And then afterwards, I will edit it and make it ready for all of you for 2 o'clock Eastern on Friday. That is the plan. If something happens, then it's not going to happen, and then we just won't have an episode for Friday. But it's going to be the disappearance. The plan is for it to be the disappearance of Deborah Asbury from Lexington, North Carolina on September 26, 1994. So an old case, 24 and a half years old. And as like I said, the average case on Unfound is about 20. If you're going to look into this case, you're going to hear a lot about the guy that Deborah was dating at the time, a guy named Andy Propst, Propst. You're going to maybe read some things about another guy that Deborah was with at one time, no, not Andy Propst, Tracy. Andy Propst. And then there is another guy you're going to read about, maybe a Tracy Asbury, okay, who over the last 25 years have been named as suspects at various times. Okay, you're going to see that. But I think what's going to happen in the interview, if things go correctly, that you're going to hear about another possibility. In fact, probably a better possibility than those two guys, even though those two guys are not the greatest human beings on the planet. But we, in talking to, and I can just tell you this, in talking to Deborah's daughter, who I'm supposed to talk to tomorrow night, we've been able to come up with some facts and things that are not on the public record. And we've also been able to talk about another guy. His name is Homer Purdue, that was living in the house where Deborah and some of her children and her sister Teresa and some of her children are all living. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what you think happened. But you're going to hear about a new possibility in that case of a guy that is not mentioned anywhere else. Why that is, I don't know. In fact, being that we're going to be the interview, that'll probably be part of the conversation, and then you'll hear it. So we'll see. And I want to thank, her name is Courtney, who I called today and asked her if we could work out something for tomorrow night. And she was very open to that. Hasn't happened yet, but she was very open to it. And she said, yeah, that time is fine, everything. But I can understand if something happens and she needs to back away because it's such short notice. I certainly understand. But it'll be the disappearance of Deborah Asbury from Lexington, North Carolina on September 26th, 1994 will be, hopefully be this Friday's case. If it's not this Friday's case, it will certainly be next Friday's case. So that's about it. That is about it. Yes, we love to explore new avenues, Jessica. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do we do? I told you that we switched it up this week as far as the case we're going to be covering. I talked about the Angie Arnell poll, talked about Patreon Live and how I have to do better on that. We talked about audio issues if you're having them. Once again, with those audio issues, if you're having audio issues, contact me personally. We can talk it out. Should drug dealers be let off the hook to report, or should drug users be let off the hook to report overdoses? We talked about that. There may be a TV opportunity coming. And then we talked about podcasts disappearing. We talked about the go missing game that is now a fad among teenagers. And we talked about Patty Action, Leanne Huffman, Sharon Harher, and Barbara Barkley. Haven't been able to work on that as much as I would have liked. And then we finished up with the disappearance of Deborah Asbury from Lexington, North Carolina, September 26, 1994. That'll hopefully be Friday's case at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's all I got for you tonight. So I'm going to go. Man, we had a long one. Covered a lot of ground. Talked about a lot of good stuff. Had some good conversation. If you got in late, this will be available on YouTube almost immediately. So I'm going to go. It's been a long day for me. Did a lot today. Long day. I'm going to have another long day tomorrow. Got my personal trainer, but I'm looking at 2 new places to move to tomorrow. One at 10:30, one at 2 o'clock. And between those, I'm letting my personal trainer kick my butt for an hour. And then tomorrow night interview, long day for me, but I love it. So I will talk to you again soon. You will hear me on Friday, hopefully. For those of you that are Patreon subscribers in the higher tiers, you'll see me on Sunday night, and hopefully things will go smoother. Good night. Katina, if you have a case that may interest me, contact me personally. That's always the best thing to do. Good night.